So how do you positively influence other people? As a leader or just anybody in general can always upskill in this area. It's complicated. There's so many different tools and techniques to use, but through the work of Dr. Robert Cialdini, who's a behavioral scientist and researcher from Arizona State University, his research indicated there was 6 universal principles of influence and persuasion. And the first universal principle is the rule of reciprocity, or the principle of reciprocity. Now, reciprocity in this context basically means if I do something for you, you're more than likely going to have that psychological pull factor that you're going to want to do something for me. Now, this is often unconscious. We don't realize it's happening. But the studies that he's done, the blind case studies that he did, revealed that this is an unconscious process and a principle of influence that we need to be aware of. You may have been in a situation in the supermarket, for example, where they're giving out free samples of salami or camembert cheese. If you take one of those free samples, there's a psychological principle or drive that's going to pressurize you to want to actually go ahead and purchase one of those salamis or camemberts. Another of the 6 principles is the principle of authority. Now, authority in this context really means credibility. Is somebody credible or an authority in that area? For example, if somebody is a thought leader or an expert, if they have the word doctor or PhD associated to their name, they're going to have a little bit more influence or be a bit more persuasive. And often that's unconscious. We don't realize while we're listening to them and tuning into them more, it's because of that unconscious rule or principle of authority. It's why it's a good idea to put out a lot of content so you're perceived as an authority or an expert in your particular marketplace. One of the ways they tested this was at a stop sign, a pedestrian stop sign. So you had the red man. You weren't allowed to cross the street. And then they had somebody dressed in casual clothes cross the street on a red stop sign. And none of the public followed this person. However, they ran the study multiple times and they had somebody dressed in really nice clothes, a nice business suit. And what they actually found was the person crossing the street that was dressed really nicely, people followed them even though they were on a red stop sign. Because it's this principle of authority. They felt like they trusted this person because they had a bit of authority or a bit of mana about them. And interestingly, that's just one of the ways you can show authority. How you dress shows authority. Another way to show authority is in how you speak. So if you're speaking with more volume, more vocal variety, or if you're even speaking at a faster speed, it shows authority. Faster speed, interestingly, equals more authority. You don't want to overdo it, but it just shows that they're competent because they're more organic in how they're speaking. So I'm speaking without notes here today that it shows that I am an authority on this topic, which is going to hopefully give you more of a reason to trust me, which is going to, in essence, give me more influence over you. Another principle of persuasion and influence is the principle of commitment. We're going to do things that are aligned with what we've said that we're going to do. So which is why if you can get a little commitment from somebody, they're more likely to follow through. So getting those quick wins and get them to say it publicly, then they're more likely to go ahead and do it. Another principle is the principle of liking. So if you like somebody or if somebody likes you, there's more influence occurring. Now, how do you become more likable or how do you know if you like somebody? It's things like, do you have things in common? And there's often a lot of unconscious processes here too. So for example, if somebody's more attractive, we're often subconsciously we're going to like them more, which is a little bit unfair, but that's just the way it is. So the principle of liking is important. You can do things that are in your control to be more likable, such as being a good person, being interested in others, being genuine. Another principle of influence is the principle of scarcity. So what this could mean would be if something is very rare or very exclusive, it creates a sense of urgency. There are a lot of ways to do this, but a common way is for a limited time only, or only 3 spots left. It creates that sense of scarcity. And the last principle is the principle of social proof or consensus. Now, why would social proof or consensus be a big principle of influence? It's because we like to follow the lead of others. We don't want to take risks. If there's a beautiful woman and lots of men are going after this woman, she is of high value. Same thing for men. If there's a lot of ladies after one particular man, that man has social proof already. Same thing at a restaurant. What meal should I choose? I don't know what meal to choose. I'm indecisive, but if it says most popular, I know that, this is going to be a good meal because so many other people have already chosen that meal. And of course, it's why we have testimonials at the end of our product and websites to show that, you're not the only one that has enjoyed this product. You're not the only one that's going to take the risk of buying this. You're not alone. So that social proof is very tribal. It's actually a survival instinct. So these are the 6 universal principles of influence. Lots of the tools and strategies and techniques fit into these 6 categories. So what I like about them most is they're largely unconscious. We're not aware of them. We're making the unconscious conscious. And as a leader, you're not going to use them to manipulate people, and you're not going to teach your team to manipulate you. It's just about educating yourself and using psychology and putting it to action in a productive way. Using them to help your team get better, to help them perform at a higher level and be more persuasive.